one of the real issues here is that with the increase of demand that we're seeing, like on American machine shops and manufacturers, I'm not sure why the cost curve isn't going down on the supply side. Like if you look at a lot of the numbers, like there's been very little relief like on material. There's been very little relief like on like your base supplies, fasteners, cutting tools, etc. And so like no matter how much work you get, the American machine shop's profit margins still suck. And manufacturers like just aren't fantastic. And it's not that like there aren't breakout success stories and there's, people going lights out and stuff like that. But for the most part, it's not, like if you drive around just Kentucky where there's, a gazillion machine shops, it's not, you're not seeing like a Porsche 911 in every driveway or like a big, like GMC Denali or whatever the nicest car is. It's like people are just still struggling to make a living. And that's the question that I always ask. What is the real core problem? Is it a COGS problem? Is it the cost of goods? And what they're doing, is it because they're like materials operates, like as one lump commodity and like there's very little negotiation against it. And like, so what are all these factors? And, I just think about, just look at the pure scale of the goods that America produces and why isn't it more possible for us to generate a greater profit out of it? So that's the first question. Second question, once you generate more profit, I think absolutely like, alternative modes of ownership, ESOPs and, employee owned businesses. And there's a great company here in Kentucky called Houchins, which is an employee-owned company, conglomerate that set the bar high, an example, a couple decades back. But I still think like, okay, so that's great, but first we got to get the profit. And we have to get to the point that like, most of these companies are multi-generational and there's like all kinds of tax issues and the handover of these multi-generational businesses. And, our family's business, like back in, the 80s and 90s, almost like got tanked just because of like generational handover. And so there's all these like things at play. And we say that it's just such a vital part of the American fabric, but there's very little relief. Mm-hmm. So we solve that part. And then I think we open up to like, yeah, like sure, like more profit, then there's going to be more investment. Then it's going to make more sense. Like, EBITDA goes up and then you're going to have more private equity plays like on smaller manufacturing companies and roll-ups. You get more roll-ups and, let's just say the more automation comes through and the more proprietary like manufacturing floor setups that we have, the more IP we generate, the more the front end capital like venture starts to exist and make it like a viable opportunity too. So I think it's just an overwhelmingly complex thing of what ownership is. But like I said, just like, let's go back to like, how do we get relief to the manufacturers? And like this, like I said, it's much money that passes through, just like American machine shops, like if it's 36 billion, 100 billion, whatever numbers you're looking at, like if you're looking at like, manufacturing and the trillion plus that it's like generating, it's just like still like it comes down to like hair thin margins like for these guys. So it's complicated.